Hello everyone, in this video we're going to be taking a look at some of the best builds that you can make in Title Update 4, specifically focusing on the sword and shield today. We're going to have our main set, which also happens to be a Scorcher build and is basically going to be all about doing as much damage as possible. Another set which is very similar, but makes use of Burst Boost instead of Scorcher. It's a great alternative for anyone who doesn't want to use that skill. We have yet another set, which is the Second Wind build. It's basically going to allow you to sprint, roll, and block without losing maximum might, and is a fantastic alternative to the Burst Boost set. And lastly, we're going to have a wide range set that still does a ton of damage for anyone who enjoys playing support. So lots of builds with lots of variation, but in addition to all of that, I have also included a Perfect Charm and Craftable Charm version of all of these builds. So you can still make all of these builds regardless of your charm luck. But before we get into the builds, I want to quickly mention that if you would like to get access to my builds, and future builds before I make videos on them, you can get access to absolutely everything in the build section of my Discord server. Links everywhere. So then, the first thing you'll need to know about the builds is actually the weapon. Your ideal weapon is going to be a Gogma Artian sword and shield, with both Gogmazios Tyranny and Lord Soul as the active skills. This is what your ideal reinforcement bonuses will look like, and I recommend you go with the attack focus. Also, ideally you'll want to match your element to the monster's weakness, but if you're only going to make one element, I'm going to recommend you go with Dragon, as it's the most applicable to the Gogmazios fight. Moving on to the first build, we have our main set, and to make this one you're going to need a Gogma Artian sword and shield, with both Gogmazios Tyranny and Lord Soul. The armor is going to be the Guardian Rathalos Head Beta Transcended, Jin Dahaad Chest Gamma, Guardian Rathalos Arms Beta Transcended, Gogmazios Waist Beta, Jin Dahaad Legs Gamma, and I'm using this charm here. Now, you don't actually need this very specific charm. There's a lot of different charms that you can use to make this build, but ideally you're going to want a charm that has both Master's Touch and at least one other desired skill, along with max slots. Also, these 2 points of Constitution don't really matter, but they are nice to have. However, in addition to all of that, you will also need all of these decorations as well. Now, as I said before, this is basically your main set. It generally does the most damage. You get some nice and consistent damage procs from Scorcher. The set has Binding Counter to increase your damage even further. Plus, the set doesn't rely on any latent power either, which is honestly a very nice upside if you ask me. Taking a look at the math, it's going to be 257 base raw, increased by 15% for offensive guard, and an additional 5% for guts. That gives us 310. With our flat damage skills added on top of that, we then get up to 350. With white sharpness, that's 462. Or once we account for our affinity and critical boost, a total of 622 EFR. Moving on to the craftable charm version of the build, to make this one you're going to need that same Gogma Artian sword and shield, with both Gogmazios Tyranny and Lord Soul. For the armor, it's going to be the Guardian Rathalos Head Beta Transcended, Jin Dahaad Chest Gamma, Guardian Rathalos Arms Beta Transcended, Jin Dahaad Waist Gamma, Gogmazios Legs Beta, and the Counter Charm 3, along with all of these decorations. Now, because this set uses a craftable charm, we do end up with a slight bit less damage, thanks to us having 2 less critical boost and 1 less critical eye. But to help make up for that, we do manage to pick up that last point of Agitator, and it honestly helps quite a bit, thanks to it being the point that provides the most significant value. As for the math, it's going to be 257 base raw, increased by 15% for offensive guard, and an additional 5% for guts, which is 310. Flat damage skills then bring that up to 353, with white sharpness that's 466. So with our affinity and critical boost, we're looking at a total of 603 EFR. Getting into the burst boost build, we of course have our ideal Gogma Artian sword and shield with Gogmazios Tyranny and Lord Soul. The armor is going to be the Guardian Ebony Adogaron Head Beta Transcended, Jin Dahaad Chest Gamma, Guardian Ebony Adogaron Arms Beta Transcended, Gogmazios Waist Beta, Jin Dahaad Legs Gamma, and again I'm using this charm, but there's honestly a lot of different charms that you can use to make this set. These are going to be all of your decorations you need to make this set. So this is going to be your burst boost set. It has very slightly higher raw damage output than the main set and relies a bit less on Agitator to actually achieve that. However, in almost every situation the Scorcher set is going to be a tiny bit better, so I would still recommend using that one, but this is a great alternative. As for the math, we have 257 base raw, which gets increased by 15% for offensive guard, and 5% more for guts, giving us 310. Flat damage skills then bring that up to 356. White sharpness then turns that into 470. So once we account for our affinity and critical boost, we get a total of 626 EFR. Moving on to the craftable charm version of the build, we got our ideal Gogma Artian sword and shield with Gogmazios Tyranny and Lord Soul. As for the armor, it's going to be the Guardian Ebony Adogaron Head, Beta, Transcended, Jin Dahaad Chest Gamma, Gogmazios Arms Beta, Gogmazios Waist Alpha, Jin Dahaad Legs Gamma, and the Exploiter Charm 2, along with all of these decorations. Now for this set, we are again using a craftable charm, so our damage is going to be a bit lower. But to make up for that, we managed to gain an additional point of burst, which honestly does help a little bit, thanks to the higher levels of this skill actually providing more significant benefits. As for the math, we have 257 base raw, increased by 15% for offensive guard, and an additional 5% for guts, giving us 310. With flat damage skills that then gets up to 359, white sharpness then turns that into 474, so with our affinity and critical boost, we're looking at a total of 601 EFR. Getting into the second win build, we have our fancy Gogma Artian sword and shield with Gogmazios Tyranny and Lord Soul. For the armor, it's going to be the Guardian Fulgur Anjanath Head, Beta Transcended, Jin Dahaad Chest Gamma, Guardian Fulgur Anjanath Arms Beta Transcended, Gogmazios Waist Beta, Jin Dahaad Legs Gamma, and this charm right here, as well as all of these decorations. Now this build is a really great alternative to the burst boost build. It does about 0.5% less damage on paper, as you'll see when we look at the math, but it does pretty much guarantee that you will always have maximum might active. That's enough that it can very slightly outperform the burst boost build if you would normally end up getting in a few good hits without having maximum might active. Getting into the math, we have 257 base raw, increased by 15% for offensive guard, and an additional 5% for guts, giving us 310. Flat damage skills then bring that up to 350. With white sharpness, that's 462. So once we account for our affinity and critical boost, we get a total of 622 EFR. Moving on to the craftable charm version, to make this one you're going to need everyone's favorite Gogma Artian sword and shield with Gogmazios Tyranny and Lord Soul. The armor is going to be the Guardian Fulgur Anjanath Head Beta Transcended, Jin Dahaad Chest Gamma, Gogmazios Arms Alpha, Gogmazios Waist Alpha, Jin Dahaad Legs Gamma, and the Exploiter Charm 2, along with all of these decorations. Now this one is actually just straight up better than the craftable charm version of the burst boost set by about 0.5%. So if you were thinking about using the craftable charm version of the burst boost set, you may actually want to consider using this one instead. However, the burst boost set does still have that one additional second of burst duration, thanks to burst boost itself. So something to think about, but honestly these sets are so close together you can use either one and you're not really losing anything. As for the math, it's going to be 257 base raw, increased by 15% for offensive guard, and an additional 5% for guts, giving us 310. With our flat damage skills added on top of that, we then get up to 353. White sharpness then turns that into 466, so with our affinity and critical boost, we're looking at a total of 603 EFR. Lastly, we have the wide range build, and to make this one you're going to need that ideal Gogma Artian sword and shield with Gogmazios Tyranny and Lord Soul, along with the Jin Dahaad Head Gamma, Jin Dahaad Chest Gamma, Guardian Arc-filled Arms Beta, Laggy Actress Waist Beta, Gogmazios Legs Beta, and I'm using this charm here, plus all of these decorations as well. So this is going to be your wide range build. It's basically the maximum amount of damage output you can fit into a set while still having max wide range and speed eating. It even has binding counter like all of the other sets, so you're not losing out on any damage there either. Personally, I really like this set and I'd recommend trying it out if you can make it. Getting into the math for this one, it's going to be 257 base raw, increased by 15% for offensive guard, with an additional 5% for guts, giving us 310. Flat damage skills then turn that into 344, with white sharpness that's 454, which with our affinity and critical boost becomes a total of 604 EFR. Lastly, we have the much more obtainable craftable charm version of the build, and to make this one you'll need that same Gogma Artian sword and shield with Gogmazios Tyranny and Lord Soul. For the armor is going to be the Laggy Acris Head Beta, Jin Dahaad Chest Gimma, Guardian Arcfield Arms Beta, Gogmazios Waist Alpha, Jin Dahaad Lags Gamma, and the Friendship Charm 5. These are going to be all of your decorations you need to make this set. Now this set is extremely similar to the original set. It has exactly all of the same armor skills. The only difference is that we lose 2 critical boost and 1 critical eye as a result of us using a craftable charm. So by and large the set is still the same. This one just does a bit less damage overall. As for the math, it's going to be 257 base raw, increased by 15% for offensive guard, and 5% more for guts, which is 310. Flat damage skills then increase that up to 344. White sharpness turns that into 454. So with our affinity and critical boost, we're looking at a total of 576 EFR. So those are all of the best sword and shield builds that I recommend you be using in Title Update 4. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe for more content like this, join the Discord, and I'll see you in the next video.